Sentiment is an accelerant, it's a catalyst, if you like. It's not a driver of growth in its own right, so the fundamentals continue to matter. Sentiment is a great accelerant. So if people feel good, and sentiment tends to be binary as well, so it moves from negative to positive. And when it's negative, it holds things back. When it's positive, when people feel better about things, it just adds to the effect, it multiplies the effect of the fundamentals. If the fundamentals turn bad, you can get a big swing the other way as sentiment sours. I think everybody is looking at it. I mean, I think it is one of the things that any multinational company will be thinking about, their China strategy, exactly how they're going to attempt to get part of this wonderful growth in potential growth in consumption in China. Of course, in China, you're not dealing with a fully open market. You don't go in on equal terms. The conditions that you find yourself operating in may not be the ones you expected. And when you negotiate your entry into that market, you do it from a weak position relative to local players and to the government sector in China, which controls things very tightly. So the opportunity is certainly there. It's too big to ignore. It's also the major driver of new consumption in the world. So there isn't anywhere else, basically, to put it bluntly. But it's not easy. It's not an easy place to go and do business, and you can't just assume that you're going to be able to tap that market. The assumption from a Western perspective would be that those just don't add up. So when you get a more highly educated and more wealthy group of individuals, they want more of a say over how they live their lives and over the rules that they live by. That would certainly be our assumption from a Western perspective. It's not playing out that way in simple terms. That's not what is happening in China. You don't get a sense. I mean, there's tremendous discontent in China, tremendous discontent, and there's a permanent rash of protests and disturbances and the like all over China, but they are all localized. They tend to be against local targets. They tend not to be against the Communist Party as a concept, the single party rule as a concept, even if they're against local Communist Party officials. So there isn't a great groundswell of discontent with the concept of single party rule. It may emerge. It's one of the big bets that China is taking, that it won't, but it may do. If it does, there will be fireworks, but there's no sign of it just at the moment. I think that this is an extraordinarily complex decision because it has to be taken along many dimensions. I mean, I did clarify in the room whether people were taking that on a purely commercial judgment, which of course, and thankfully they weren't. It was very much a sentimental judgment, I think, the people in the room were making. So this question has to be judged across a very broad range of dimensions, and that makes it very, very complex. And I wouldn't expect us to get, great availability of honest brokers who are going to tell it like it is. So it's going to be a tough decision to make. My suspicion is that we will stay in.